I really don't like complimenting myself, but after I built this on the Logcraft server, I thought it was pretty impressive. And the thing is, it's actually super easy to do. The main thing that makes this look like it's a challenge to build is the fact that I used so many different blocks in a gradient for the wall. But in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to incorporate these gradients into your builds and make them look super nice, and it's actually really easy. So you want to build with gradients in your survival world. The first thing you've got to do is quit the game and start a creative world. Because this is a thing I like to say, not just when using gradients, but just when building something complex in general. Never start it in survival, always go into creative first and just mess around with stuff, see what looks nice, and then you know what you have to gather. What I usually like to do right when I start thinking about what I'm going to do for a build is just go onto the search items tab and just scroll through the items and see what just you want to build with. For example, I decided I want to build with oak planks. Perfect. But of course this isn't very impressive looking, so I'm going to show you how to add some more blocks into this. Before we get any further into this, I just want to mention how gradients are not to be confused with just basic texturing, because in gradients you're sort of changing the color from bottom to top, whereas with textures it's just one color throughout and you're using different blocks that have the same color. So I'm just going to move this wall up a few blocks, and let's say we want to go from oak wood to spruce wood. Then what you want to do is just have a line of oak planks at the bottom, a line of spruce planks at the top, and this is just a practice wall. This isn't actually what the build is going to be, but this is just to get a sense of what blocks could potentially go in between here. Now head on back to the creative menu, and what you want to do is just look for blocks that you think could potentially go in between there. So stripped oak wood could potentially, maybe stripped spruce wood, oak logs. So I'm just going to scroll through here, and each time I see like a brown or light brown or tan looking block, I'm going to add it into my list of blocks that I have on me. Also, don't be afraid to use blocks that would be kind of considered strange. Here I've got brown mushroom blocks, and these aren't usually considered a building block, but if you think they work, go for it, because once it's all put together, it'll look really nice. So once you have a pattern of blocks that you think you could potentially use, just lay them out sort of in grids, kind of like this, just to see what sort of colors they have. Now that they're out like this, you can pretty easily tell the colors from lightest to darkest, how they transition. I would say this is the lightest, so now we're going to make a sort of just, I guess, line of lightest to darkest with all these colors. So I just did that here, and as you can see, I took out a few of the blocks that I added before, the coarse dirt and the stripped spruce logs, and that's because I didn't really think they fit in with the colors that we currently have. Like, I mean, I guess the spruce wood could kind of fit, but you don't really want too many different blocks in this. I would say 5 to 7 is probably a decent number. And now that they're in a line like this, you can kind of start to see how they would blend together. So now it's time to add them to our wall over here. And the first thing you're going to notice is I'm actually going to blend these stripped oak logs in with the oak planks, because they're more of a texturing block rather than a gradient block, because they have basically the same shades as the oak planks. But of course, as we move up, we're going to slowly transition into darker blocks, and I would say this jungle wood could also be mixed in with these jungle planks. And actually what you sometimes want to do here is sort of mix in the previous layer up a little bit, because that creates more of a sort of transition rather than just having it flat all the way. Of course, this is a test, so you can definitely move these walls higher if you need more space to work with. I'm actually going to move them 4 blocks taller, and that's completely fine Because yeah, as I said, this is just a test wall. Once you move on to the actual thing, you should be able to actually compress this down to be a lot smaller. And upon looking at this, I just realized that this oak wood is actually a bit darker than this. So we're gonna swap it out for the stripped spruce wood, and this actually should be lighter. Just barely. And there you have it. That is my completed oak to spruce gradient wall. And as you saw, it looks pretty nice, and it's actually a very simple process. So once you have this done, you can actually start to bring it into a build that you've already started work on. And if you don't recognize this, this is actually my testing for the warehouse that I built in Logcraft Season 4. And this is actually a bit of spoiler for what I was planning for the interior. But if we go over to this side, you can see it's pretty much almost exact. I don't have these chains here, but other than that, it is basically an exact replica. And as you can see right here, this is my sort of wall that I created beforehand that is actually very similar to the one that we just made back there. And these gradients can actually be a lot more subtle. We have a second one right here that's only using 3 blocks. It goes from cracked stone bricks to stone, and it kind of actually has a blend of stone bricks and stone near the top. But I would say that if you already have one decently big gradient, you shouldn't do a second big one because that kind of takes away from the main focal point of the build. And as you can see over there, I was actually experimenting with a gray to blue transition, and I decided that it would look worse. So I went for the red to orange one. Now as you can see, I didn't replicate the entire build of this while I was testing because you only really need the key features. Like I did one of the sides and the front, and that's basically all I needed because each side is pretty much an exact replica of the other sides. But of course, once you're done building this, you're not quite done yet because gradients are a bit tedious to get these resources. And by tedious, I mean there's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to need. So I would recommend, after you're done with your build in a test world, sort of creating just a little list of blocks that you're going to need and just a rough approximation of how much you think you're going to need. This is actually the exact amount of resources for each material that I gathered in Logcraft. And of course I had extra at the end because for all of these, I included an amount that I would definitely be able to finish with. Because the worst thing to ever happen is you not having enough resources to finish a build, especially with one like this that uses so many different blocks. It is just not fun. But that's pretty much all for this tutorial. As you can probably tell by now, it is not that hard to do. And I hope that you'll consider trying this out for a build in the future maybe. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it informative, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, just let me know. It would be really appreciated. And other than that, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.